out of the work super easy. But what you should see is we're starting chapter 3. We don't need to rip anything out yet for a few days. We don't, because I have worksheets for you. This is standard form of a quadratic, okay? ax squared plus bx plus c. And I want you all to know that a is a number, b is a number, and c is a number, okay? If you don't see a number, it means it's a 1, right? If you don't see a number in front of a variable, it means okay? So, I'm sorry, say it again. No, thank you, Shane. Can you guys change that to a plus? It could be a minus. So technically, I mean, there could be a minus there, but when we just talk about standard form, thank you so much. When we talk about standard form, it should be a plus sign, okay? But you could have negative numbers in A, B, and or C, right? Now, we're going to find the vertex of a quadratic. So quadratics, you've already seen them before. They're the curvy-looking smiley faces and frowny faces graphs. They're almost identical to graphing the absolute value ones, right, that make a V like this or this. The only difference, really, is that it's curvy. And I know we've talked about it in this class. I just can't remember exactly when. But it doesn't matter. So this amount of work right here, we have to do. It's to find the vertex, which is the lowest point or the highest point. We do negative b over 2a, which is grabbing the numbers, b and a, and doing this little math, and then we plug it in. Or you're going to be able to use a table. So I'll explain all this with an example. I'm just kind of reading what the notes say, okay? So we're going to do a series of steps. First, finding the vertex, okay, and I'll show you how to do that. And then we're going to make an XY chart, and we're going to pick 2 numbers near the X value of the vertex, which might sound familiar. Again, I'll show it to you, and then I'll write step 3 when we get to it. So let's just go to a problem, okay? Let's do an example here. So you should see the fact that this has a x to the second, that's what makes this a quadratic. If you remember, we had absolute value symbols that made it like a V when we graphed it. This is going to be a smiley face. Literally, it looks like a smile or it looks like a frown, okay? So you should be able to identify what A is, what B is, and what C is. So A would be 1, B would be 2, and C would be negative 3, okay? And to find the vertex, that's our first step. The vertex would be an ordered pair, okay? It's going to be an X and a Y. To find the X value, we use that little baby formula, negative B over 2A. So I'm just going to plug that right into there. So the X value is going to be negative B over 2A. So X equals negative 2, right? That's my B value, over 2 times A. And Ms. Shackton's going to come out yelling in a second. Wait for it. Two times 1 is 2. When we divide those, we get negative 1. So there's our X value. Now, what I wrote up there is plug it in to find Y. Where would I plug negative 1 in? I'm going to plug it in here or here. Or I can show you a little a shortcut. That's what I must say, shortcut. So you could, let's pretend you're sitting in science class or something and you're doing your homework and you don't have a calculator. You could absolutely plug a negative 1 in here and here and simplify it. That would give you Y, also known as f of x. But if you want to do it the rest of the really work in your calculator, here's how. And I've shown you this before. It was just a different type of equation. Go to your calculator, guys, and you might need to do this because my pre-calc kids have been doing some crazy stuff with their graphs. You need to clear the RAM. Do you guys remember how to clear the RAM? Second plus 7, 1, 2. And you can use these on the exam, the tests, everything, so I won't take these away from you. So second plus 7, 1, 2 gives you a RAM cleared. You need that, okay? Because they've been using the Y, they've been graphing on here today. All right, so go to Y equals top left corner, and what we want to do is put that equation in there, okay? So X is right here, as you know, right next to alpha. X And then how do we do a squared? We use our alpha, it's called a caret, but that's how you do your squared. And your cursor, I think for all of you, is up in the air, right? Is it up there blinking by the 2? If it is, you have to hit your right arrow button, and it brings your cursor back down, okay? If not, it would, if I kept typing, you can see I'd be putting numbers up in the corner. I don't want that, okay? So or up in the, 2 back in, oh gosh. Y equals squared. Okay, bottom line is you need your little blinking cursor back down at the same level, I call it the ground with x. And then the rest of it, plus 2x minus 3. So you need to get the equation in the brain of the calculator, and that's what you did. You just type it in there. Okay? Now, does anybody remember where we go? I heard someone say it, second graph. We want to go to the table of values. We want the x, y values. It's blue, so you hit second, the blue button, table. And you can scroll through this and find any of the values you want. We just found x is -1, so guess what the y value would be? -4. It's right there on your screen. You can scroll through. When x is -1, we already found that, right? Instead of plugging -1 in, we'll ask the calculator to give us the answer. It's -4. And then you guys can pick any 2 values right next to x. Remember, we would do either -2 or -3 or 0 and 1. It doesn't matter which 2. So this is step 2. Make an XY chart and pick 2 x values right next to this one. And it's right there on your screen. You don't even have to do any work. You're already looking at the table. Choose 0 and 1 or -2 and -3. Either ones, it doesn't matter because it's going to be the same y values. Look at it. They're the same exact y values. Right? At 0 and 1, my x values are -3 and 0. I mean, my y values, where am I? -3 and 0. Yep, sorry. And then if you went the other way, look, -2 and -3, same numbers, -3 and 0. Why does that happen? Because when you graph, remember we have an axis of symmetry, we just go straight across, you'll see. Let's sketch a graph. Graph your vertex first. Left 1, down 4. Remember I like to make an X. That's my vertex. Graph 2 points. We've got them right here. 0, -3. There's one. 1, 0. There's another. You mean this? Did you type that in? And then I went to the table. Yeah. So when I went to the table, at -1, my y value was -4. Okay, well make sure you typed in the same exact. Did you type this in? And you're saying that it says at -1, it's -7? I'll check on you again when we do another one. Okay, so guys, look. What we now know is, remember this should be coming back to you. There's an axis of symmetry that goes right through the vertex, and then remember we reflect over. And it makes a smiling, curving graph. It's curvy, like a smile. That's the graph. Do you guys kind of remember from when we did the absolute value ones? Is it a little bit familiar to anybody using the table? We're going to do another one, okay? But we also need to be able to say the domain and range, and this should come back to you as well. Domain of all of these is all real numbers. Whether it opens up, and we're going to do one that opens down, the domain is always every single number in the world, okay? Because as it goes up, it's going left and right. But remember how to do the range. Range is your y values. In this case, our lowest y value is what? What is that number? -4. We start at -4, and we use a bracket because we're including it. That is a point on the graph. And then it goes up forever. Okay? Let's go through those steps again with a different equation. So there's only really one little bit of work you have to do. And that's this part right here. Other than that, it's knowing how to put everything in your calculator. Okay? So let's practice that one more time, and then I'll do some homework problems with you. Let's do a -1. When the a value is negative, you should get it's called concave down, where it opens down. Because negative people frown. Negative people are sad. Okay, so we know it should happen naturally in our graph. When we graph it, it should, but it's just something to think, oh, did I graph it right? Because it should be opening down, all right? So the only work we have to do is that step. That gives us the x value of our vertex right here, okay? So we're going to plug in. Now don't forget, if b were negative, and you plug a negative in where there's already a negative, it would change the sign to a positive. But it's not. So we have a negative b is 4 over 2 times -1, right? Negative b over 2a. So that's -4 over -2, which equals +2. Okay? Now we can do the rest in our table. By the rest, I mean the rest of our vertex, and we're going to need 2 points for an XY chart. Okay? So go back up to y equals, hit clear, and type this one in. So use your negative button, x to the second Got it typed in? Isaiah, Brian, you guys got this typed in? Once you have it typed in, we go to our table. It's a table of values, an XY chart. That's what that means. So since it's blue, we hit second. And I need to go where we have a +2. So I see it down there, 2, 5. There's my vertex. I don't have to even plug the x value in. Now you can pick 0 and 1 or 3 and 4. It doesn't matter. Just 2 on either side of the x. Like 0 and 1 or 3 and 4. Because look, guys, the y values are exactly the same. They're 1 and 4. Because they're going to be exactly the same on either side of the vertex, right? That's why we're able to reflect. Everything's done. All we have to do now is graph it. Matthew, did it work on that one? Okay, I wonder if you used a negative button or a minus button instead, because something was wrong with it. Okay. So, oh, I didn't like my graph. I don't like my graph. Let me use it different. Okay, so my vertex, always start with the vertex, guys. Right 2, up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my vertex. Then I have 2 points, 0, 1, 1, 4. You have an axis of symmetry that goes right through. It's always the same numbers you got here. It's x equals 2, right? But you can see it. 1, 2, vertical line going through x equals 2. And then we can reflect right over. There or there. And then notice it's opening down like we said it would. because it's got a negative A. When A is negative, we are frowning. When A is positive, positive people smile, we are smiling. Domain and range. Domain on these is always all real numbers. As we go down, those arrows are also going left and right forever. Careful on the range. Anyone remember how to say the range on this one? Kind of, Mandy. You have to, right. So Mandy said negative infinity. Why did she start at the bottom? Because you have to always do least to greatest, okay? So those arrows are pointing down forever, which means negative infinity. You might have said that, Shane. And then all the way up to 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, this is 5. And you put a bracket on it. So range is, domain and range are always least to greatest. Okay, so if you put 5 to negative infinity, that's not right. It's close, but that's why we practice them in the homework, okay? I'm going to give you the worksheet, and I'm going to do several with you. Yeah. Guys, there's a front and a back. The back is for tomorrow. It even says it at the top, okay? So ignore the back. Okay? We're doing the front. Just the front, guys. Just the front. Well, no, there's something about it that's not right. All right, guys, let me start with you. Number 1. So, guys, listen, it's not a requirement for you to write what A, B, and C equals, but it does help organize your information. Kind of like when we're graphing a line, I like to write M equals B equals. You don't have to, but you should be able to identify what A, B, and C are. Because the first thing you're going to do is the negative B over 2A. So you at least have to know A and B, right, to plug into that. So I'm going to get negative 12 over 2 times A. So that's negative 12 over 6, which equals negative 2. So now I know my vertex is going to be negative 2 something. And I'm just getting ready to go to my table and get that value and the other 2 x's. So I need to insert that equation again. So you can just hit clear and then type it in. Oops, I didn't mean to graph it. You could graph it, but you don't need to. Okay, so I needed to go to where my vertex is. Negative 2, 4 is my vertex. And pick 2 values right next to x. I used negative 1 and 0. You could have gone up and done negative 3 and negative 4. It doesn't matter. Just pick either 2. And then you can see what the y values are. 7 and 16. Luckily, the graph is made nicely for us, as you see. Okay, let me finish this example. Negative 2, 4 is where my vertex is. And sometimes we have to be in between. Like, look at our x-axis is being counted by 2's. So negative 1 is in the middle, okay? So negative 1, 7 would be like there. And 0, 16 would be there. Okay? I have an axis of symmetry that goes right through the middle. right there. Then I can just reflect right over and get my other 2 points, exactly on either side of the axis of symmetry. And there's the graph. Domain and range, also write those. Domain is easy, right? No matter what, it's all real numbers. Range, least to greatest. The smallest number we use is 4, and it's pointing up. That means infinity. You want the table. So I'll be back in a sec. You guys need me to do another one? I'll do another one if you want. Okay, so if you're having trouble getting started, remember the only math you actually have to work out is this, x equals negative b over 2a. You have to do that every time. So a is 1, b is 2. We don't really need to know what c is, but for later problems we might, so just identify it. So we start with x equals negative the b value over 2 times the a value. That's negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. Good? So that's the beginning of our vertex. And I know I'm going to have to get 2 values as well, so I just kind of start getting ready. Then everything else is right here. Everything else is in this calculator. So go to y equals, is it you who asked me? Are you? Okay. So I'm going to just put this in there. So I have x squared, bring it back down, plus 2x plus 4, right? And remember, I want the table. It's blue. I have to hit the second button, blue button. And I want to find where negative 1 is. So there's negative 1. So that's going to be negative 1, negative 1, 3. Okay? There's my vertex. Now I'm going to pick 2 numbers, either 0, 1 or negative 2, negative 3. I'm just going to go the other way this time. It doesn't matter, as long as it's on either side. So far, so good? Evan, are you with me this far? Okay. Then I'm going to go graphic. There's my vertex, negative 1, 3. Negative 2, 4. Negative 3, 7. I have an AOS that goes right through my vertex. That's always the same number as your x value here. It's always, because it's on that point. Reflect right across. So if I have 1 point to the left, I have 1 point to the right. It's the vertical line that goes right through your vertex. Remember, vertical lines are x equals a number. And what x value is that on? Negative 1. Okay, just let me finish this. So the domain is all real numbers, and the range goes from 3 to infinity. What part are you asking? Oh. Evan, did I catch you up to where you were kind of lost?
Actually, so the second value of the vertex, how do you get that?
My chart. So once I found negative 1, right here, x is negative 1. So what's y when x is negative 1? It's 3. This table gives you any x and y value you need in the whole graph. So here's, she puts her vertex like here. I'll get it in a second. Remember, the vertex is just in order to do. I do thought you were still kind of struggling. I'm going to do number 3 with you, okay? If you're struggling still on number 2, jump to number 3 with me so you can do every step with me, okay? Okay, so when some of you come to me complaining about your grades, I'm going to remind you of how much you play in class. How much you don't pay attention. There's a lot of you guys on your phones, haven't done 2 problems with me that I've done. I don't want to hear about your grades because I'm doing problems with you, and some of you just sit there and don't do it with me. That's inexcusable. Okay, so same steps. Follow your notes. Follow what we did on all the other problems. I'm plugging right into this formula, okay? A is 1/2, B is 4, C is 9. Why did I write C is 9? Just to organize my information, even though I'm not plugging it in there. If you don't want to write it, you don't have to. Remember, that's optional. So I have negative B over 2 times 1/2. Okay? So guys, when you multiply something by 1/2, it just divides it by 2. 1/2 of 2 is 1, which is negative 4. That gives us the x value of our vertex. We're going to use our table to find the y value, and we're going to use the table to get more values for our table. We don't need all of them, we just need 2. Okay? So to do that, instead of doing a whole bunch of math, because trust me, that gets a little cumbersome, I am going to use my calculator. I'm going to go to y equals and clear it out, and I'm going to type in this one. So 1/2 x squared. I typed 1 divided by 2. That's 4x Remember how we put fractions in? We just use a division sign. Now, where do I go here? Some of you are like, what do I do? Where do I go? Well, remember, we want to know some x value. Given this x value, -4, what is the y value? Look at your chart. Those are the x values. Those are the y values. My x value at -4, which is what I want, I need the y value. It's 1. I get it right from my table. I didn't do any work. It's right there. That's my vertex. Then I need 2 more points. I can either use -3 and -2, or I could use -5 and -6. 2 on either side. Okay. I need to look at what you typed in. Double check that you typed it in exactly like this. Okay. So, and I'll come look at it. Don't erase it. I'm going to put -5 and -6. But remember, it doesn't matter because look, if you look at the y values, they're the same. -5 and -6 has the same y values as -3 and -2 because they're on either side of your AOS. And I'm just going to steal the y values. Now I have everything I need to graph. Everything. So to the left 4, down 1, there's my vertex. Left 5, down 1.5. Okay, it's in the middle. No use crying about it. No big deal. And then -6. Oops, it should be going up, shouldn't I? Sorry, I graphed that wrong. Should have known that. Yay for whiteout. -4, +1. Sorry, we're up here. It's a +1. -5, 1.5. It's okay that it's in the middle. No big deal. And then -6, 3. How do we get the rest of it? Parrish, you missed this before. AOS is the vertical line that goes right through your vertex. That's why I always make it an X. I always know where it is. What is that line? I'll get it in a minute. Wait for a second. X equals -4. Thanks, JT. Okay, that's what that line is. X equals -4. And then we can go right across. Exactly the same distance. So I would point to the left, I put the same distance to the right. And that gives me my parabola. Domain, all real numbers. Range from, what's that y value right there? 1 up forever, right? This is 1. From 1 to infinity. Hey guys, let me tell you something. Let me show you something. On this number 5, your vertex, when you do the work, you're going to get a decimal. Okay? So what happens when you go to your table is you won't have decimals. You'll have -4, you'll have -5. You don't have decimals.